In this video tutorial, I'm going to walk you through setting up an assignment within Moodle. So the first thing you'll want to do is open up your course, turn edit mode on, and then navigate to the week that you'd like to put the assignment in. Keep in mind, you can always move it if you need to. So I'm going to go ahead and add an activity or resource. Under all is where assignment will be. It is also located under activities. One thing you can do is you can star it, so then that way it'll be under starred and you can have all of your favorite activities and resource starred and easy to get to. I'm going to go ahead and click on assignment. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. I can give it a description, so what the assignment is about, and I can check this option here to show that on the main page. Activity instructions, much like the description, this might be instructions exactly how you want them to do it. You can always record something. You could also do a video here if you want to give them more information on the instructions for this activity. Additional files, this is where you could upload a template for them to fill out. I think of education majors, if you have like a lesson plan that you want them to fill out, you could put the template in here for them to download and fill out as part of the assignment. Availability allows submissions from, this is when they can start submitting. So you can put in the day that you're going to allow the students to start submitting. The due date is when this assignment is due. So I'm going to go ahead and make it September 17th. If you want to have a cutoff date, you could also have a cutoff date, and this means that it will remain open after the assignment is due, but maybe you will deduct certain points for being late. This is completely optional. You can enable or disable it. And same with these up here. Remind me to grade. If you want it to remind you to grade on a certain date, you could go ahead and turn that feature on. And I'm going to choose September 18th. Something new in Moodle 4.0 is you could set a time limit for assignments. So in other words, when they click on it, it then gives them a time limit that they can submit it. This is nice. Instead of doing quizzes that are timed, you could have them do an assignment that is timed. Submission types down here, you can do online text, which means your students will just type in information within the activity itself, and you could have a word limit here if you want to. And a file submission is when they're going to upload a file. So this could be a PDF, a Word document, Excel file, an image, whatever. You can decide there what you want. File submission is by default. Maximum number of uploads. 20 is the max and the default. If you just want them to upload one document or one file, they can. The nice thing about this is if you have it set to 1, they upload a file, they change their mind, they can delete the one file and re-upload it. If you set it to more than 1, then they can upload 5. So maybe you have 5 different papers that you want them to put in here, you can set that to 5. The maximum size that can be uploaded, this is the system-wide setting of 100 megabytes. So if your students are turning in a very large presentation, a very large video, you might want to do online text as an option, have them put that video on their Google Drive, copy that link, and then they could put that link into the online text so that you could actually click that link and read their paper within their Google Drive. So if something is very large, that is a nice option. Right here is where you can put in what type of files are acceptable. Keep in mind, you can also put this in the instructions up here or the description. Feedback types. This is how you're going to give feedback. Feedback comments are when they upload the file. You could give comments back to the student before you actually grade it. Offline grading worksheet is something we don't use here at Gustavus. Feedback files is where you can actually upload a file back to them. So for example, you could have your students upload a Word document. You could download that Word document, turn editing on, and track changes on, and you could actually go in there and give them feedback and then upload that Word document back to them. So feedback files is a nice way of giving them a file back. If you're not going to be uploading anything there, you can go ahead and uncheck that. Submission settings, this is if you want to require them to use the submit button. By default, when a student uploads an assignment within to their assignment, it automatically saves it. This is nice to have it set to no because sometimes there has been trouble in the past where somebody submits a paper and they forget to hit the submit button. This is the submission statement that you require them to check it. These are both yes or no. You can change any of those options. If it is a group assignment, you can go ahead and check group submission settings. Then every individual in that group, only one person needs to submit that paper. And when you grade it, everybody in that group will get the same grade. Notifications, this is if you want to notify them about late submissions, and that is again if it is due on a certain date and the cutoff is on a different date. If you're not going to be using that, you can go ahead and select this to no. And then the default for notify students, when you are grading something, there is a notify student option, and by default it is set to yes. You can change that to no. What this means is as soon as you grade it and you hit save, it automatically notifies the student that their paper is graded. This is great because it helps students know when their paper is, assignment is graded. But if you're not doing them all in one day and you have two friends, it could be an email that you get from a student. Why is this person's graded and mine is not? So you can decide this even as you're grading, but the default is yes. The last thing we're going to talk about is the grade here. You can do different types of point value. If this is just something they're going to upload as like an introduction to class, you can set it to no grade. You can do it as a scale, and within here you can do pass or fail, and you can actually create your own scales as part of the gradebook if you wanted to. And then the last option is a point value. So how many points do you want this paper to be worth? And then down below, we're going to talk about a lot of the grading options in the grading videos, but you can actually put in a marking guide or a rubric if you want to in here. And under category, if you set up your gradebook and have different categories like assignments, quizzes, final exams, you can actually toss this particular assignment into a category. You can also set a grade to pass, which is nice for any type of completion conditions. This is a new feature within Moodle 4.4, hide grader identity from students. This is nice if you have teacher assistants grading your students' papers. By default, students always saw who graded their paper, but now you can set this to yes, and then your student has no idea if it was the professor or the teacher assistant that graded that paper. So you can change that option if you want. Other things in here, common module settings, whether it's showing or hiding on the main page, and you can actually restrict it to certain groups. So if you have two groups in your class, you could have an assignment for one group. So you could change it to, separate groups. And then you could have, you could also choose your group here that person only sees this assignment. So the group mode is a nice function if you want just particular groups of people to see this. Restrict access, you can add restrictions here based on date, grade, the user profile, or you can actually set up some complex logic statements in here if you want to do restrictions. Completion conditions, this is kind of nice. You can automatically have your students manually mark the activity as done, or you can add in some requirements if you want to. And if you add in the requirements, whether they viewed the activity, they made a submission, or they received a grade, then they can actually do the next task or things like that. So you can set a completion condition in here. Tags and competencies, we don't really use here at Gustavus. So at this point, if you are done with your setting up your assignment, you can go ahead and click on Save and Return to Course. So here you will see your assignment on the main page. Basket number 1 opens on September 3rd. It's due on September 17th. If you have in your drawer over here, you have a block called a calendar. I'll add it quick. You will then see if I hover over any dates on the 17th, it'll then tell me my basket number 1 is due. So this is helpful for your students, and also your students on the main Moodle page have a calendar. It'll tell them for all of their courses any items that are due. So this is helpful for your students. If you need to make any changes to this assignment at any time, you can click on those 3 circles and you can go ahead and click Edit Settings, make any changes, and then again, save and return to course at the end. Another thing you can do is you can also hide this if you don't want your students to see it until a certain date, and then you have to remember to unhide it because it's hidden from students here. You just simply click those 3 circles and show it. One last thing is once you have set up an assignment and it's perfect how you want it, sometimes it's a lot of work to go in there and set up all these settings again. You could always duplicate this assignment and then just go in and make little minor changes. For example, the name of it, maybe when it's due, but all of your other settings that you have set up are there by default that you had put in the past. If you want to change this name, then you go ahead and click on the pencil and you could call it, click on the pencil and you can call it basket number 2 and just press return on your keypad and it'll automatically do this. And if you want to move it to a different week, you can go ahead and drag it and drop it to whichever week you want that to be in.